so the first question comes from Wall, and I see Wall looks like he's on right now, which is cool. And Wall's question, as you can see here, is basically how to set up and give access to a single folder or a restricted number of folders. Basically, again, remember that in WebGeek speak, we really call these folders directories when they live on the server, but folders, directories, same thing. A restricted number of folders or directories, or an area on your server to an outsourcer. So the question is a very good one. Obviously, Wall is considering using an outsourcer for a particular site, but wanting to restrict their access, which is really, really good for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you don't need to give them access into areas that they don't need. That's the first thing. And the second thing, of course, is especially if you don't have a long ongoing experience with them, you don't know their skill level. They might say that they're an expert when they are not, and you don't want to give them access to things that might basically put you at more risk. So that whole topic is a really great question, and I think I'm going to let Jerry start, and I'll probably chime in with it. So Jerry, I've got the Web Host Manager open, and I've got both of our demo URLs tonight open for cPanel. So if you want me to go to a particular place, just let me know, and I'll do the clicking, and you can do the talking.
Okay, why don't we go to one of the cPanels, and okay, we're on this. Okay, on this one, the question again is how to keep people out of different parts of your site when you're giving them access. Typically, I'm taking it through FTP, is what I'm assuming from Wall's question. So if I have an outsourcer that's uploading and downloading files, and the bad thing about it is it's really hard to give them multiple folders access kind of thing. Like, let's say you have 8 folders on there and give them only access to 3. The security is more of a hierarchical type, is that you say you can have access from here and everything that's inside of it. So if we go to let's see, go set up FTP accounts. And on here, I think I removed all. Okay, there's no account set up. So there's mainly the main account. When you would log in, you would just see all the files and public HTML. So just create a basic new account here. And so what happens is while he's typing that in, if you look down, it says directory, it says home, then LiveTurtle, public HTML, and then live1. By default, cPanel gives a directory name of that person. But if you wanted to give them access to somewhere else, you can give them access to the whole site by clearing that out, which would mean they'd have access to HTML, public HTML, and all the files that you would have to. Or you can move it back down to public HTML, like Kevin's done here, which would give them access to everything that's in the HTML folder. Now, if you're working with something like WordPress or whatever, where they've got to be manipulating a lot of things, this is typically what they really need. Unfortunately, if you have other things in public HTML, they're going to get access to those too. Now, if you're dealing with an outsourcer that mainly is going to be delivering contents to you and just needs FTP, you would just put like it was like live1 that was there. And what will happen is when he clicks create account, you'll see an account show up. But if you go back now so what happened is it created a folder called live1 in the public HTML. Yeah, thanks. So now we have public HTML. Now you saw all those files that normally be seen. In here is, you see it's live1. So when live1 would log in, if you click on live1, they would only see what's inside of this folder. They wouldn't see anything else. This would be their home folder when they log in.
So we can do that live too.
Yeah. So when the main one logged in, he saw everything. But when live1 logs in, you'll notice it'll go to this empty folder. So now anything that's in that folder, he'll have access to. Unfortunately, if you want to have them have access to different folders, let's say you have a blog folder, a shop folder, a folder for whatever, like multiple, you'd actually have to create instances of FTP accounts that would access those. You can create an FTP instance that will access an existing directory so that you can give a certain person access to one directory, but you can't give them access to like 5 directories and hide the other directories via FTP. It's just the way cPanel FTP works. There are ways at the root level and shell level to go in and change permissions and such, but that's typically beyond the scope of most reseller accounts or beyond the scope of what people really want to end up doing. Because then you have to deal with users and the people on a certain level. But if you notice, this person just logged in and it has an empty directory listing. So if we were to go into, so this is live one. So if you can just drag a file into it, see, he can't go back out. This is all he sees. So if you can just drag a file into it, so we have something there. Yeah, looks really. Okay, so so you now just see this is the only file here. So that's all he's going to be able to see, do, write, and work with. He doesn't have access to the rest of the files in the public HTML on the directory. Okay, so going back, if you can log into your main account now, disconnect from this guy and log into the main account. So now this main account's got access to everything. You see everything here. So he can see everything. This is his root, kind of, per se. And when he clicks on public HTML, you'll see that there's the live one is listed. When he clicks on live one, you'll see that he has to refresh because it caches. But you see it. You see now index. So the main account here has access to everything, but the live one account only has access to what's in that folder or directory and any subdirectories or subfolders inside of that. So that's how you can limit it to one place. If he needs to have additional access to other sections, the way that it works, you basically would have to set up different accounts for the different directories. If you're working with an outsourcer that you don't trust enough to be doing stuff, it might be better just to have them give you the stuff yourself and deal with it. Or create another like developer instance that only has the things that no crucial data or not a live site, and let them work on that. If you need more than what we just showed there.
What Jerry just said, I think, is incredibly important. So I am a huge fan of development domains and development areas. And let's say you're working on a WordPress site and you needed someone's help. What you could do is use a utility like Backup Buddy to back up the real live site. Use Backup Buddy to move the entire site to a development domain completely on a different server, or at least in a different area that wouldn't affect the live, and then give the outsourcer access to the development location. Let them do their work, test everything, make sure everything is good, kill off their FTP access if you're done with them, and then you can basically just migrate the site back over to the live. That way you get everything done, but you have extreme control and you have huge protection in that if they really mucked something up, you wouldn't have to be worried about the live site.
Okay, so just a couple follow-up things on this. Wall was asking, what do we recommend as a FTP app? Because we were using FileZilla. It seems to work great and is free. What we showed was not FTP client specific. It had to do with the server. but Kevin in all the videos is using FileZilla, so that works great. And one comment was also, I want to have a directory on a shared server for collaboration and sharing of files between parties. Yes, you can have multiple accounts, again, going to the same directory. So even though he has live 1, he can make live 2, live 3, whatever, and they can all point to the same directory or different directories so that you can share files as needed. So that this does work okay. It's if you needed somebody working on a live site or working on more files than just sending and receiving files. But if you're just going to be like, let's say, sending some code to look at, or sending images or documents or things like that, this does work. Okay. And let's see. So,
and kind of a somewhat connected thing. It can be at times, and something I do for my clients at times too. Sometimes my clients request training, and actually it happens pretty often to me. So what I can do is I can actually, if I feel comfortable with giving that particular client that type of training, I can basically just fire up Camtasia or whatever screen capture software that you use. For me, it's Camtasia, and actually make a live training video with my actions and voice, just kind of like we're doing now via webinar, and then I can put that into a directory on their site, but then password protect it, kind of a different way, not allowing them basically to upload or FTP into the directory, but give them password protected access to a directory that's just specifically for them. So it's kind of the same thing. Maybe you had information or downloads or something that you wanted to actually put into a special area on your server, and just give access to the outsourcer. Maybe in that case it's not training, maybe it's just a download file. You could give them protected access into a directory that would then allow them to to log into the directory. We showed this earlier in one of the earlier videos, but just a quick recap. If you want to do that, you basically just need to find the particular area inside of your control panel, your C panel, and let's see. Right here under security, you'll see it says password protect directories. Clicking on it, I want to be inside the root for this URL, so I'll leave that set. And it says, please select the folder you wish to protect. So if I wanted to protect that new Live Infinity folder, we could protect it. Password protect the directory. Give the directory a name. Again, this name doesn't have to be the same as the actual directory name. It's just going to show. You'll see what happens here. I'm just going to name it password protected. And once that's saved, basically, you have to add a username and a password that you're basically giving access to the Live Infinity directory. So I'll just type it as user and then give it an easy to remember. Of course, you don't want to do that. You want to create something that's hard, but for me, during this, we'll add a user, and that directory now is password protected, and you can add multiple users to the same directory if you had more than one outsourcer that needed to access it. But if we call up, let's see, open up a new tab. If we call up that directory now from the development URL we're working with, and I put Live Infinity, we should get a warning, and we do, that says that we can't basically get access to that directory unless we have the username and password. And you'll see that this information right here says a username and password is being requested. Basically, the site says password protected. So that information that I put in to name the directory is going to be put into this dialog box. So if you wanted to say password protected directory for outsourcer name, you could put that as well. And access wouldn't be granted to this folder unless they had the correct username and password. And if they did, they would then see basically the contents of that directory, and if you had multiple zip files or something in here that they needed to download to work from, it would give them access. So just another thought that popped into my head. Any other questions on that wall, or did we handle that for you?
I think from what he was saying, a few things, it looks like we got it. The related question from him was setting up secure FTP or SFTP.
Okay.
And how is that done?
Okay. It's server specific, so you're going to need to check with your host to find out what particular port you need to connect to, and also even if the host allows secure file transfer protocol. Not all hosts even allow you to connect to them via SFTP, so it's host specific. For HostGator and many hosts, basically how that happens is through FileZilla. Let me disconnect. Over here in FileZilla, you have the site manager, which is typically where you're going to add your accounts that you're going to want to re-access on a regular basis. You saw me put in information here into this top area, and this is referred to as the quick connect area. So if you just want to quickly connect to something that you don't really expect to necessarily connect to again in the future, you can just put in the FTP host, FTP username, and FTP password right here. If you leave the port information blank, and yeah, you'll see that dialog box pop up here in just a second. I'll show it to you again. But if you leave the port blank, it typically will default to port 21. That's the standard port used by most hosts in regards to non-secure FTP. And if I could either put 21 in there, or I can just leave it blank and click Quick Connect. And most times through most hosts, it's going to connect straight through the standard. If I hover over the box, you'll see the window comes up and it says the default for FTP is 21. And let me try it again. The default for SFTP is 22. I will tell you that sometimes you need to put in actually a series of 4 digits. 2222 is typically what is used if it wants 4 digits. But let's say, for instance, right now, we'll go back to the site manager, and we'll look at the setup for livetrainingurl.info right now. When you get into your site manager, you have the ability to create a new site, give it a name. I just named mine, as you can see here. All of mine are named with the actual full domain name and extension. So if I was working on yourdomain.com, you would see that I label it yourdomain.com. You can work with this however you want. You could have it say Bob's website, if that makes sense for you. For me, I like to keep it specific to the actual website that it's going to connect to. Over here, and you can create different folders. You'll see that as well. There's a new folder. That allows me to keep my client sites and my personal sites and temporary folders separate from my demo site. So I can basically have more sensitive data in here, and as long as I'm careful and I don't expand these others, if I just click on the plus for demo sites, you'll see that you can load multiple sites inside of one folder. So that's how I basically work with the site manager. I create a folder first, give it a name, and then I add new sites into the folder. And basically how that's done is, let's see, show you that too. So if I wanted to create a new folder, I can create a new folder, but you see that it placed it inside of demo sites, and that was because I had that particular thing active at the time, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna delete this, but I'll delete it later. The default is my sites. So if you click on My Sites first and you see that it's activated and I click New Folder Now, it'll add it at this top level. So I can just put Live Folder, and you know that we just created this folder live. Now that that's activated, if I go ahead and create or click New Site, I can put, I can put the new site that I'm creating straight inside that folder. That's basically how that works. On the right-hand side, you'll see it's asking for the FTP host, so I would put that in. The FTP port, again, leave it blank. Typically, if you're just connecting through regular FTP, or try port 22 at first if you're trying to connect via SFTP, and if that doesn't work, try 2222, and if that doesn't work, contact your host and see if it's even possible for you to connect to the site via Secure File Transfer Protocol. Underneath here it says protocol. Well, it defaults to the standard. So click the drop-down menu and check SFTP, and then login type is not going to be anonymous. It's going to be normal. Your user is going to be whatever the FTP username is for this particular FTP account. The password will be the FTP password for that account. And you can leave yourself some comments if you'd like, and then you click OK to save it, or you click the connect button to connect. And if all of your details are right, it'll connect right to your server. I do use and suggest and recommend that you do use SFTP whenever possible. The only thing to note, and I pointed this out on other webinars, is that you will find that working in SFTP mode, that the server will disconnect much more quickly than if you're working in regular mode. So if you're going to use SFTP, just be careful, because when you transfer files from your machine over to the server, it may look like it took, but it may not actually have completed the process. And if it didn't, you haven't done anything wrong. The reality is it may have been a few minutes since you've completed a process or actually worked around in your FTP client. And if that's the case, it may have logged you out even though it looks like you're logged in, just for security sake, and you may have to try it again. So typically kind of what happens is, and I guess we can try. I'm going to try all 4 twos at first on this dummy account that we just created, and let's see what happens. It says it can't get in. I don't ever quick connect through SFTP. We'll try just 22 and see what happens. Okay, you'll see right here it says FZSFTP, so FileZilla Secure File Transfer Protocol has started. Not actually seeing connection down here. We've started connection, but nothing's really happening just yet because we're not connected to any server. So I don't really know entirely what it's doing. Okay, so now it's saying that it timed out. It's waiting to retry. It's going to try again. This may not be a good test. Like I said, I don't normally try to connect. Well, actually, let's see here. Try to get rid of that. It added SFTP : / to the URL. Let's try this. Yeah, sorry about that. Typically, I don't use Quick Connect to try to get in through SFTP. It keeps acting like it wants to, but it doesn't. So generally speaking, let me click this red flag here that cancels the current operation. We'll go back and look at the full account here. Typically, when you want to connect, you don't need to change anything about the host information at all. That stays the same. You just change the port to 22 or whatever the host tells you. Change this to Secure File Transfer Protocol, and then click Connect. And this will probably work. If it doesn't, it may be because it needs port 22. I'm sorry, 2222, which for me on most HostGator accounts typically wants a series of 4. Let's try that again. Try it one last time. All right, so we have it set up with the same exact FTP host as before. 4 twos for the port, and we have selected SFTP as the protocol, logon type normal, and we've entered the FTP password. Okay, it's going to work this time. So what you're going to get is an unknown host key message, and it basically says that the server's host key is unknown. You have no guarantees that the server is the computer you think it is. So if you're trying to connect to somebody's server that you're not familiar with, you do want to go slow and make sure that you're cautious. If it's your own server or it's the server client and you've connected to it multiple times, so you know that it's correct, you can just click the checkbox that says always trust this host, and it won't bother you with that in the future. So we are now logged in to the server via SFTP, and that's the typical routine that I go through to log in. You'll see up here that it says it's added SFTP://, but you don't have to actually add that in to the FTP host name inside of the site manager. But we're logged in basically now via SFTP as opposed to just standard regular FTP that doesn't encrypt the data while it's being uploaded or downloaded. But what you will notice is if I try to grab something, I'll just upload just a directory real quick. There's a whole bunch of files in it. Of course, I picked one that has 400 plus files in it. Let's see. We'll go ahead and just, it's not even going to let me cancel. All right, so I picked the wrong folder. Apologize for that. But once the file's up and running, my point is basically this, is that you've seen obviously that this particular directory has been pushed to the server. But sometimes when you're working in SFTP mode, you'll try to make an update and it'll look, just by looking at progress stuff, it looks like everything took. But what you can do is there's this double arrow icon right here that says refresh the file and folder lists. And what this will do is this will refresh the contents of the server. So one thing I would caution you is if you're working in SFTP mode, before you walk away, just double check by clicking the refresh button, making sure that the file took. And then of course if you're making a change on a website, also call up the actual URL to the page affected or pages affected, and check it out on the front end as well, just to make sure that everything is exactly the way that you wanted it to be. The worst thing in the world is to get a request from a client that the change was made, go do the work, or you think you've done the work, not basically check anything on the back end, send the client an email that says, hey, the requested update's been made, and of course then get an interesting email the next day that says, I don't get it, I just went to my site and nothing is changed. There can be, of course, cache issues for them on their browser if they're looking at a cached page, but it could also be, especially if you're using SFTP, that it may have been basically that the change or the upload didn't take ever to begin with, and it's just not a position you want to be in. So anyway, a few more files for this silly test, and we're done. Anyway.
Couple related questions regarding SFTP.
Okay.
Why would you, on what occasions would you want to use SFTP?
My position is always if you have the opportunity. Jerry?
Right, that was basically what I was going to say. It's just use it whenever you can. No, it's fine. It's use it whenever you can. If it, there will be situations where it might not work, or you might not have ability to do so, but it is a good thing to do. It is a good thing to do. And one related one was, isn't it slower? And yes, but it's fairly negligible between the speeds that I've seen, and it is more secure. So, you know, it's.
Yeah, I'm kind of guessing. I don't know. Maybe there's still some on the webinar that kind of don't know my history, but my history is kind of wacky. But for about a 10-year period, I was a deputy sheriff, and in law enforcement and in security, there is a phrase, at least in Southern California, that's used, and that is good security is not convenient. So if your security measures are super convenient, they're probably not all that secure. So yes, there is an inconvenience in terms of a little bit slower speeds, and in terms of what I was just talking about earlier in regards to the fact that the SFTP will disconnect you more frequently from the server, even though it doesn't look like it has. So, I mean, we've just uploaded that other file, and we've been sitting around, and everything looks, you know, completely normal, like nothing's changed. But if I were to go grab another file and try to upload it, it might work absolutely perfectly. Just grab just an image, and you know, everything is here, and it looks like it's here. But my point is, just click the refresh button, let it go through its refresh, make sure that everything's fine. And I guess as a side note, you might just want to click refresh prior to uploading if it's been a little while since you've, you know, had some activity. If you haven't, you know, been clicking around and moving around inside of your server via FTP for a little bit, you might want to click refresh before you go do something, just to get it to kind of refresh and reconnect prior to doing, you know, some more work. Jerry?
Wrong button. If it does fail, it's going to show up in the file area at the bottom as failed, right? Typically.
You know what? It may or may not. I honestly don't really pay attention to that all that much. But yeah, there are different tabs down here. You can take a look at file transfers that were successful and that failed, and those that are in the queue, basically ready to get uploaded. But one of the things that'll happen a lot, especially like, let's say you're switching out a file with the exact same name. So you make a change to the index.php file, which you see here, and then you're gonna, you know, basically upload the new version of the file with the same name. I can't tell you how frequently it'll actually give you the dialog box that says, okay, do you want to overwrite the existing file? Yeah. Click the button to say yes, and everything looks like it worked. And then you find out later that it never really did it. Everything looks on the front end like it worked perfectly, but I'm just telling you from experience that in SFTP mode, at least with FileZilla, that you'll frequently find out if it's been a while since you've navigated, you know, between areas of your server or have uploaded something or downloaded something. Just double check and make sure that it's actually taken. Of course, you'll see a modified date and time, which is a good, you know, gauge if you're taking a peek at when exactly you uploaded it. If you see that value change, then you know everything is good.
So one related thing is, what could happen during an FTP transfer without using SFTP? And it's kind of like with anything that you're going to transmit over a network, it could be easily sniffed or read. I'm going blank on other names of it, but you could basically, as it's being transferred across the network, anybody on that network can grab the packets of information and store them, use them, whatever.
Right. So let's just talk about WordPress for just a second. What Jerry said is absolutely true. So it takes a geek, you know, it takes somebody, but there's plenty of geeks out there that have skills and bad intentions. So if they do have the ability to read the data that's being transferred from your local machine to your server over the network unencrypted, well, if you're uploading WordPress and one of those files obviously is the wp-config.php file, they have the ability to then basically snag, for lack of a better term, the entire file and its contents. And of course, if someone has access to your WP config file, they have all of the information they need in order to hack your site. So anytime you see the S, whether it's the HTTPS for secure hypertext transfer protocol, or whether you're looking at SFTP, basically all the S is just saying that the data is being encrypted during the transfer process, such that even if they were to have the ability to snag it during that sniffing process that Jerry just mentioned, the data is encrypted. It's not just sitting there in raw text, allowing them to just quickly put it to use.
And if you're working out at a public place, like let's say Starbucks or something, the Wi-Fi and stuff is not encrypted at all. So other people can be sitting there doing whatever they want. That is why you often see HTTPS on URLs where they have a login form. So, or like when you log into your bank or something like that, it's just basically to encrypt it so it can't be easily read on the network.
Right, and to that end, not all hosts allow you to. Right. Let's see, but it's been a while. I almost never connect to anything remotely from some place that I'm not a public Wi-Fi kind of stuff as far as this kind of stuff is concerned. But let's see. Under support, I'm pretty sure HostGator does allow it, but I want to just let's see, secure cPanel. Yeah. Oops, I want that one. Of course, it gave me to the wrong one.
You trying to figure out how to
there we go.
do a secure login?
Yeah. Many hosts do actually allow you to connect to your cPanel through HTTPS. So just so you know that a lot of hosts do, and you can do that through HostGator as well. So that's another thing. You might be, sitting over at Starbucks, and maybe you need to FTP. In that regard, what Jerry just said is wise to think about. That kind of stuff. Public Wi-Fi's basically make that whole topic of discussion even more important. So SFTP would be even higher of a priority at that point. It's the same thing if you needed to log into cPanel and change something for a client or for yourself. It would be best to use the HTTPS URL to log into your cPanel as opposed to just the standard raw one.
Yeah, and it's pretty prevalent with most cPanels where they either have where the company has some sort of shared SSL, or it'll give a warning which you can bypass, but you really need to know that you're connected to the right server. I almost always connect securely to my cPanels in WHM. Okay. We have somebody wanted to know about why we moved hosting. Do we want to get into that?
Yeah, sure. This is yeah, I need to type something up and send it out to all my customers and subscribers because we've had a lot of questions about that. Hey, in the past you've recommended HostGator, you're no longer recommending them. Does HostGator stink now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to, I'll go on record and I'll try to set the record straight in regards to my current feelings about the situation, and tell you that I am not anti-HostGator. I'm still going to recommend them. I will still recommend them to my clients, provided my clients are small type businesses. But you do need to also know kind of a little bit about the hows and whys about what happened, and I'll try to make this somewhat succinct because Jerry and I could probably talk for a couple of hours just on this topic alone. The particular account that we had a problem with was actually a premium reseller hosting, and the one that actually went down, that I do have a Diamond reseller hosting account. If I click reseller hosting, we can go over to their packages and you can see this particular one was not a Diamond level. I think it was a Gold level. Yeah, it was. So the particular...
No, the web dev course one?
Yeah.
No, it was Diamond, I thought.
It should have been the Gold.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I thought it was Diamond. So
yeah, it should have been the Gold. But anyway, here's what you need to know. Regardless of whether you have their best reseller hosting account or not, if you look at what they're indicating in regards to your resources for that server, you're seeing that the disk space for the Gold is listed at 160, and the bandwidth, this is a monthly figure, is listed at 1,200 gigabytes. The Diamond only adds 200 gigabytes to that. Regardless, we were not anywhere near these kind of values as far as what we were doing. The reality is that, and of course, we may not be able to prove it, but we know because Jerry's super smart and he has the ability to look at all sorts of server values that most wouldn't understand in terms of the actual server load. The server load itself, remember that that reseller hosting like this, you're still sitting in a shared server box. So, it's not like there's just, and you see the servers down here, it's not like this particular account was the only account in one server box. Where we are inside the same server box with probably 10, 20 plus other resellers. The problem is, of course, and it's kind of interesting, you see here where they're actually listing values for resources. You're actually getting a finite number for disk space and a finite number for bandwidth. And this has always kind of been confusing to most, and it was to me for a long time too when I first started, because if you go to standard web hosting, we'll go back to the beginning, just talk about their cheapest level shared hosting plans, right? If you look here, I mean, even at their cheapest one, it says starting at under $4 a month. It says you get unlimited disk space. Again, it doesn't look like it's a text, but unlimited disk space and unlimited bandwidth, meaning that if this is true, you could, literally, take a terabyte hard drive and just, upload it to your hosting account. And of course, it really doesn't matter, how many visitors you get and how much bandwidth you take up, because hey, it's unlimited, right? You get everything. Your hosting account is as rock solid as any over at Rackspace or Liquid Web, and I don't know why those people are over there paying $500, $600, $1,000 plus a month for their hosting accounts when I can get basically unlimited everything for $396. Just understand, HostGator is not the only one doing this. I don't know how they get away with doing it, but this is not unlimited. I'll tell you right now, resources are finite. There is a finite amount of resources available, and even though it says unlimited, you're not going to get unlimited. I promise you that. So all of a sudden, now you think, okay, I want to upgrade. I want to get the next level up, which is basically a reseller account, and it goes in order, right? So standard hosting reseller account is a little more premium than the standard shared. The VPS or virtual private server hosting is a little bit better than reseller, and a dedicated server is supposed to be just you and you alone inside of a server box. That's the premium. So they kind of go in order left to right. But if you go to a reseller hosting where we just were and you look and say, okay, well, I'm going to get a Gold account over here, like this particular hosting account situation was when we decided to move, you'll see that now all of a sudden there's finite listings, and that doesn't make sense, right? Now they want $75 a month for a hosting account, and now they're telling you that, hey, you don't have unlimited disk space anymore, and guess what? You don't have unlimited bandwidth. So it becomes very perplexing from the position of someone who's kind of newer to the whole hosting and server world, because it just doesn't seem to make any sense. If I can get unlimited disk space and bandwidth for $3.96, why on earth would I want to spend $75, or for the Diamond account, $100, or for the VPS and the dedicated servers, several $100s a month? So just understand that this is more honest. That now they're really defining to you that there is an actual cap on resources. But even still, here's the problem. The problem is that the individual host gets to make the determination in regards to how many different resellers they put inside that reseller box. So here's just a completely fictitious made-up thing. Let's say that HostGator decides that based on the resources of the server itself, that it has the ability to separate this server into 5 Diamond accounts, because you take 200 times 5, come up with 1,000, maybe that the actual disk space that's available in that server is 1,000 gigabytes. So 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. That's where they come up with that value. If that were the case, then from a technical standpoint, these values should then again be true and accurate, meaning that once you get to 200 gigabyte, you've used up all of your allocated or available space, and the other 4 people that are in here, have the ability to use up that same amount of space. Well, what happens if the host no longer actually does the math like that, and they say, you know what, we can get more money if we stick 10 Diamond resellers into this box? Well, there's a problem, because that disk space size didn't change. It's still 1,000 gigabytes for the whole server. But now they're telling basically 10 people that they get up to 200 gigabytes each. And of course, if everybody filled up their account, they would now have twice as much in that server than it can even hold. So there's a problem. So what they're doing is they're betting that the users inside this account are not going to truthfully use all of the resources that are available to them. But what happens if they do? So the question then becomes, maybe on a regular day, even if there's only 5 people in this box, maybe those 5 different resellers are only getting average kind of traffic, and that's using an average amount of bandwidth. But what happens when you get spikes? What happens when you have a little launch like ours? And this launch was little. I mean, it was just an in-house launch between Dave and I. It wasn't something that we were having joint venture partners promote, etc. And yeah, we do have both Dave and I have sizable lists, and we probably mailed to, I don't know, 10 to 12,000 people for that little in-house launch. But still, on a bigger scope of things, it's a relatively small promotion. We're not talking about, getting the type of traffic that, a real site, and I say real, I mean like, Amazon or some, real site that you're used to. Those sites get crazy amounts of daily visitors that takes up huge, obviously server horsepower and resources. Well, the end result of this was, as a result of our little in-house launch, we got basically a nastygram from HostGator, and my biggest problem with the way it was handled on their end was the fact that we didn't get pre-warned. We didn't get any warning that says, hey, it looks like you're using more server resources than we've allocated. Can you give us some information in regards to what's going on? Or, because they have to protect the other people that are in that server box, and that's completely legitimate. I'm not downplaying that at all. Each person in that server box should have the ability to be protected and should have the ability to operate within the disk space and the bandwidth that's allocated to them. But instead of doing that, what we basically had happen is that they did 2 things, right, Jerry? They disabled the database, and they took down the index page. Is that?
Yep.
That's the 2 things that they did. Well, that effectively just killed our site, and they killed it without any pre-warning. Basically, they killed it first, and then they sent the nastygram second that said, hey, by the way, you're using up too much resources, so we killed your site. And I don't know, what that ended up costing us in terms of dollars, but it was probably pretty significant, at least in terms of a smaller, type of a launch. And it also, of course, put us through some reputation issues with having to make apologies and concessions and do a bunch of stuff that we hadn't necessarily planned. But hopefully, I mean, we did our best to act as quickly as possible. Jerry was an absolute godsend through that whole process, because without Jerry's help, it would have probably taken us 3 or 4 extra days to get the site back online, as opposed to being able to have that whole move done within a 24-hour period. Would not have been possible without Jerry's help and expertise. But Jerry has been with Liquid Web for I don't know, a few years. Jerry, is that?
Yeah, that's just over 5. A brief moment I wasn't with them, but yeah, so pretty much over the last, last 7 years.
Last 7 years, yeah. And if you haven't figured it out already, I trust Jerry's judgment in terms of all this stuff implicitly. And Jerry and I had already been in discussion in regards to Liquid Web and about moving a lot of my web properties over to them, just because of 2 basic things. So this is what you need to know. Number one, Jerry has a personal relationship with a lot of people that work over there, because he's a guy that's hands-on, likes to communicate, is a great communicator. When things comes up, he communicates, and he's basically had an open dialogue with them and their support staff, their tech support staff, for a good long time, and as a result of that has developed a personal relationship with the folks over at Liquid Web, and has found them to be extremely helpful and to be completely honest. So if you go over to their site, even their standard shared hosting stuff, you're not going to find anything, at least I didn't find anything that said unlimited this and unlimited that. Everything has a real finite resource value to it. But in addition to that, basically, and I'm basing this on Jerry's experience with them, they basically conduct their business like I said earlier. They really look at their servers and say, look, if we're really telling 10 clients that they can each have 100 gigabytes of space, then 10 times that 100, that disk space has to be basically 1,000 gigs, which is, it's a terabyte, right? So it has to basically break down that way. They conduct themselves basically with their customers first and with dollar bills second. And as a result of that process, there's less people inside of each server box. And as a result of that, of course, you actually get what you've been promised and are paying for. And in addition to that, what we've found since we've made that move, and we've had basically the relaunch of that product after we had the apology go out and the move happen. We relaunched it again, and in addition to that, we've just done a new launch. Man, my brain's fried, Jerry. Today's Friday. When we launched that? Yesterday? Yesterday we launched the WordPress Warrior Crash Course yesterday, which is also running over at Liquid Web. And Jerry has the ability to see the server load averages. And I don't know, Jerry, if you want to talk a little bit about what server load averages are.
Okay. Well, just to give you an idea, that the server at HostGator was constantly pegging well over 3 to 10 on a load scale, which, to put it this way, it's basically overloading the processors. The load averages that we have on the Liquid Web right now, I just checked it, we're at 0.01 load averages. If you could go to WHM, the Web Host Manager tab.
You want to see if the one that's running over HostGator?
Yeah, I wanted to see what it's running right now. I can't see it because it's underneath my... yeah, we're running 0.21, 0.23, and 0.20, and this is on a server that has the pages that you just saw loaded.
It just dropped. But yeah,
I,
basically what Jerry's saying, we have like nothing here, and we're not sending any traffic here. And just a
okay.
second ago, when it was at 0.21, it was already above the server was having a stronger load average than the other server at Liquid Web that's currently we're sending traffic to. Um, at the height of the relaunch of the Mobile Web Pro Tap to Call landing page volume 2, which was the promotion that we did that caused us to go down over at HostGator, that Jerry was saying we were running between 3 to 10, and um, it was quite frequently at 4. The height of the load over on the Liquid Web server was the very highest value that I saw it get to was 0.69. So it never even reached a load average of 1.0 anytime during the anytime during that relaunch. And if you can just think about, just talk about HostGator running at 4, and even if ours had been running at 1, basically the server would have been running 4 times more efficiently over at Liquid Web as opposed to HostGator. And is there and I know that there is, but you understand it better than I do, Jerry. In addition to, or additionally to what I just said in regards to Liquid Web not overloading the amount of accounts inside of a server, what are the other main reasons that the servers over at Liquid Web are running more efficiently?
Well, they have what they call a smart VPS, which blocks the reseller accounts and seems to work much better than the method that's being enforced at HostGator.
When you say blocks, you mean segments?
Yes, it's
Okay.
segmenting us away so that even though we're on the same hardware as some other people, because of the level that we got a virtual private server, a VPS. We will rarely, if at all, ever be affected by somebody else on the same hardware. We run completely separate. So if our site crashes, everybody else stays up. They can't get to our sites. We can't get to their sites. It's a virtual private server.
Yeah, I guess I should have pointed that out because I didn't even make mention of the fact that we're actually on a different type of hosting. I showed you over at HostGator that there's shared reseller and then VPS, and I forgot even that we're on VPS, which we are. But it wouldn't be fair to even be making the comparison that we're making if we were paying significantly more money. But here's the thing: we went with the Smart VPS, just the 1 gigabyte for this particular current account, the smallest. And in addition to the $50 per month, we are paying an additional $10 per month because we wanted the CentOS software and the cPanel. We wanted to use the cPanel control panel. So we are legitimately paying $60 a month, not the $50 a month here. But what I'm saying to you is we are paying $60 a month as opposed to what we were paying over at HostGator. We were actually paying $75. So this is better than an apples-to-apples comparison. Our server load has basically, like I said, the servers are running 4 times or better, more efficiently than this one was over at HostGator, and we're actually paying $15 a month less than we were. So
and the nice thing about the design at Liquid Web is I can actually click a button. You can jump back to the Liquid Web page.
I can.
Thank you. Okay, if I want to go from the 1 gig Smart VPS to the 8 gig, I click a couple buttons, say OK. I get charged prorated the difference, and within about 20 minutes, it automatically comes up on the new hardware. So if our next product launch, is at Amazon levels, we can bump up very quickly without having to actually migrate or copy or install everything on a new server. They can jump from server to server. They have more advanced servers where you can clone and duplicate and then do load balancing and stuff like that, all within the interface. But we're going with the basic one because that's really what we need at this point. We're working fine with the 1 gig. It really depends on what you're doing with it. But that's also what I use as a reseller for my clients. I have the same level.
Awesome.
Let's see. Somebody asked, does you get alerts when you're hitting bandwidth and disk space limits? Yeah, but it didn't even have time. I mean,
yeah.
When I was in there right before it happened, everything looked fine. So it really wasn't. It was more of like they said we were just using too many resources. So I mean, everything was looking fine in here. So, but yes, it can send you alerts and stuff, and so it'll tell you. I believe by default it's at 80, 90, and then 100. I believe is the defaults that it normally sends. And then what's supposed to happen is if you actually eat up too much disk space or bandwidth in a particular account, it's supposed to put up the suspended page. But they decided that it was just better to actually change all of the permissions on everything so that it wouldn't run, and effectively taking us offline. And then about, I think, 15, 20 minutes later,
yeah,
we actually got word of what they did. So
yeah, it didn't come fast either, which is another problem.
I had a problem with malware getting into one of my sites. Yes, it does happen. And Liquid Web actually fixed it, removed the malware, took care of the malware. They don't actually remove them. They don't. That's not their service, but they have that service to do it. But they went in there and they took care of a rogue thing and shut it down and blocked it at the firewall, and then notified me, at why they were doing it, saying, "Hey, we're trying to protect you." They didn't take down my site. They didn't, get the whole site offline. They've called me. I've gotten notices in the morning saying, we noticed that it wasn't running smoothly. They're a fully managed server. They actually take care of the server for you and do a lot of those things proactively. So it's a little different than HostGator, which is more of a commodity. You kind of need to keep on top of it yourself, and then even when you do, things happen. So that's why I particularly like Liquid Web. There are other managed server companies out there, and when you compare, they're really not that big of a price difference. Although Liquid Web is a little more geeky than HostGator, but the
sign up process is much more clunky. It's much more clunky over at Liquid Web.
Yeah, but once you get in, but I've also found out that I've asked questions, and they give me back with an answer that I don't understand. I just ask them, say, I don't understand, or what do you suggest, and they'll actually go into detail. They have a great knowledge base and things like that. So I actually feel very comfortable dealing with their support. And if you're the type of person that wants to do it on the phone, they answer within a few minutes. There are other companies out there, DreamHost, that actually charge you $9.95 to call to talk to somebody, which I just, when it's down, you want to sometimes talk to somebody now. So that's a lot of things that I also put into consideration when choosing another host. When your clients are calling you, you want somebody to respond within a few minutes. And you want to
if you're thinking about reseller hosting at this point, just based on the experience that I've gone through, and I have another reseller account already, or still at HostGator. I'm going to be migrating them over to Liquid Web as well. More than likely, what's going to happen in our business sooner than later is we're probably going to get a fully dedicated server over at Liquid Web, and then additionally I'll probably have an additional VPS server like we have now, where my clients' sites will reside. I definitely want to keep my clients' sites separate from my own, that's what I have going on now as well. But probably sooner than later, other than maybe just an account that I keep over at HostGator for training purposes, I'll probably be moving most of my properties over to Liquid Web. That said, I made mention I'm not trying to fully harp on HostGator. I think the business plan, which is the premium, if you want to call it that, of their normal shared hosting. Again, this is not for resellers, but I think it's a good plan. I've had good luck with it. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends that own businesses that I've helped them basically build their websites, and instead of putting them inside of a reseller account, I just help them build their own account direct. And the fact that there's a free private SSL certificate that comes along with the account, you also get a dedicated IP address, etc. I think this is a great plan, a good value, providing that you understand that, of course, unlimited disk space and bandwidth is not a reality. And in addition to that, you need to understand that this is only something that I would recommend for someone who has a small local type business that isn't getting significant amounts of traffic and or is not going to build some crazy huge site. If that's the case, I would be looking probably over at Liquid Web for a better account. And if you're thinking, well, even at the $60 level, that's too much, and it may be, depending upon what you're looking at. It's a business decision you're going to have to make, what makes sense for you. Of course, if it's a reseller account, then that's actually a really good price, $60 a month. You even have 10 clients in there paying you $20 a month. You're bringing in $200 a month, only paying $60 out, making a decent amount of profit, and running your own sites potentially completely for free at that point, just because you're letting your clients pay your hosting bill, which is a great way to go. But just so you know, it's not the only solution they have over here. They actually have standard shared plans too. You see standard plan, webmaster plan. I don't recall what the standard plan was because I wasn't interested personally, but you take a quick look at it. Looks like their cheapest plan is $15 a month. So there are packages over here at Liquid Web that that don't cost $50 to $60 to $1,000 dollars. They do have, I forget which one it was. They do have a dedicated quad processor. I think it's about $1,000 a month.
Yeah, they actually have one of the most powerful servers available. It's I think it's a 96 core, and it's rather crazy. It's I think if you go under smart servers, it's listed, but maybe not. But they actually were building a very high availability, high performance box, and I actually got to play on it for a few minutes because I actually bought a day of using it. They gave me some credit to play with it, and it was just fast. And I don't have any particular need for that, but it's nice to have something available. If you scroll down, I think it says.
Yeah, there we go. So
yeah,
go all the way up to $1,200 a month.
96 gigs, 4 times 32, and
yeah,
it's fast. And they also have high speed options, and so they have different options, so it does scale depending on what you want. The nice thing about getting in at the VPS level is that you can, within a couple clicks, you can actually scale to anything within their range, and as well as scale back. So if you know something's coming up, you can scale up to a more powerful server for a period of time and then scale back, which is hard to do with most reseller accounts and things like that.
Cool. So any other questions, or we should probably, actually, before we do that, we should jump to the second question we had.
Yes.
Handle those two first. That's not what I wanted. Let's see. Here we go. All right, second question came in from Esther, and this is about pricing. So the question basically says, planning on offering services as packages, which I think is a good idea. So clients can have one price for services, for instance, offering website creation and mobile site creation as a bundle, or social media as a bundle, for example, Facebook, Twitter, or Pinterest, and other services. Question is basically, how best can I go about pricing of services as a bundle? Because after website creation, basically she's going to clients and pitching other services like SEO, mobile creation, social media, reputation management, etc. Just want an approach where I can assess their needs and basically propose a marketing plan for them. Okay, so pricing is I'm going to give you some ideas and thoughts and let you run with them and do with them what you will. this is not a subject in which I can say, this is the way you should price. That doesn't exist. You're going to have to do what's right for you in your business. I'm just going to give you some thoughts on it and then let you glean from my thoughts what you will. So we talked about on the reseller webinar, we actually talked about packages, and I do think that packages are a good thing. I mean, you're looking at packages, basically we're looking at web hosting, but if we go back to like the VPS, even though this is web hosting, what we're seeing is packages, right? So you see 4 packages. VPS 1 gig, 2 gig, 4 gig, and 8 gig. Basically, they each have a package name, and that's important. I think each package should have a package name and should be, named intelligently such that it's easy to kind of determine what the difference is. And of course, they can also be named cleverly. You can also use some psychological influence by your package name. So you might have the beginner, package. I'm not saying that's what you need for your web design stuff, but you might have like a beginner, and you might have, in terms of psychological stuff, you might have most popular, you might have, pro, you might have, diamond level or premium. And those package names, they're all saying things to people when they look at them. Now, these are not doing that. These are simply just, this is all geek stuff, right? All we're doing is just delivering you data. We're not trying to make some type of not trying to persuade you in any one particular direction by our package names. But think about that. Think about the fact that you can actually add some persuasion, or basically move people towards a direction or a particular package if you want to. The use of most popular or best value, those two things come up very, very frequently in website design type services and package names, and there's a really good reason for that. They're basically trying to upsell, even without doing it. They're just trying to persuade you to go above the, you don't want that beginner package, and maybe you want to go pro or premium or diamond level because you already think of yourself as pro or elite. But then there's that one that's best value or most popular, etc., that you're going to find out just from a psychological standpoint, you're going to find out that most people are going in through that door, which effectively is basically kind of dissuading people from going to that lower price package. But you're making it available for those who are really that price sensitive. So that's one of the reasons why packages are important. You're allowing people to select the package that's right for them and that they can afford. I don't think I've done, well, I know that I haven't done this training during this webinar at all because it's really completely outside of the whole web development topic. But just really quickly, I'm going to teach you, if you don't already know, I'm going to teach you basically the marketing pyramid. Anytime you're looking to sell a product or service to somebody, there's really 3 key elements. And if I had a pyramid to draw, it starts from the bottom and it works its way up, getting a little bit narrower and narrower till you get to the top. And the marketing pyramid is basically this. It's built with desire, willingness, and ability. So sorry that I didn't prepare something. Maybe I can just kind of put this up in the text file. I'm just kind of winging this at the moment, but it just kind of struck me as I'm answering Esther's question. I'm just going to type it here, the marketing pyramid. I think this is going to be very helpful to a lot of you. When you approach, how to price packages, when you approach the actual face-to-face selling of goods and services, I think this is going to be very helpful to you. At least I hope it is. So anytime you're looking to make a transaction with something, you have to be thinking of these 3 key elements: desire, willingness, and ability. And here's kind of how this plays out. I wish I had a poll going on, but we don't have a lot of people on this call, so I'm gonna ask you to type something into the question box and make this a little bit interactive at least, and Jerry will tell me the results here in just a second. If I were to well, here, let's do this live. I'm going to jump all over the place. Hope you guys can follow my insanity here for just a minute. That's a Nicky picture. All right. I have no idea what this particular 2012 Ferrari is, but it is a 2012 Ferrari, and I would be willing to bet that, you know, we're looking at a vehicle that's costing, let's see if we can see some information on the page. It's going to close. Hopefully nothing inappropriate comes up here as I'm trying to do this. See if it's going to give us a price. I don't know if it will or not. Okay, it's going to say that it says most likely cost around $300,000 when it hits North America. So there we go. Got a new 2012 Ferrari. You see it. It's very pretty. It's going to cost about $300,000. So the first question I have is, type into the question box now, is how many of you desire that particular vehicle? Just a quick yes or no. Jerry, just let me know. We're getting more yeses than nos, more nos than yeses. Anybody out there want a brand new 2012 Ferrari? Costs about 300 grand.
Walt says his wife would. He said this is about 60% no.
Wow. Okay, I obviously picked the wrong thing. So let me ask this. Does a Porsche work better, or does some other vehicle work better? Because my analogy is going to completely bomb if 60% of you don't want the thing to begin with.
Would everyone like a nice, how about a Corvette? Everybody want a Corvette?
What kind of car meets their fancy?
No Corvette.
No Corvettes. A Porsche. I don't know. A new Audi. A Jaguar. Maybe a Bentley, a Maserati.
Not into cars.
No, nobody's into cars. Okay, how about this?
How about an iPhone?
How about this? Let's
try a house.
Yeah, there we go. I was just going that direction.
Yeah, see, that's a nice car, Sue, but they're no longer made. Saturn skies.
All right. Now, of course, as soon as I open up this, people are going to be like, "No, it's not my style. I'm more into modernism." Of course, I'm trying to pick something that's kind of mid-range. Here's something. Okay, I don't know what this thing costs. It's multi-millions of dollars. It's in Beverly Hills. It's an incredible mansion. So everybody, I'm just going to assume y'all want it. You know, if I had the ability to wave a magic wand and give you this prime Beverly Hills mansion, I'm assuming most of you would say, heck yeah, I'll take it. Okay, so you have also proven my point to a degree. Even in the 60% said no. The first problem, or the first thing that you have to think about when you're marketing something is the thing I'm marketing, is it something that's marketable? Do people desire it? Do people want it? This is a problem in the offline space because a lot of times we assume what people want. We assume that they want reputation management. We assume that they want a website. We make these assumptions. Well, they have to, they have to want it. Well, why do they have to want it? They want it because we want to sell it, right? I mean, I want to sell it, therefore you have to want it. That's not the way things work. So the very first thing that happens when you are offering goods and services or putting together packages or anything else, you have to be putting things together in such a way that makes them desirable. And there's a lot of different things to that process, but one of them we just talked about with package names. Would you rather buy package one? Package one is $495. Package two is $695. Or would you rather buy the Pro Business website package, which is $495, and the Elite, business package, which is $695, etc. You see my point? You have to create interest and desire around whatever it is that you're marketing. Because if 60% of you already don't want the Ferrari, I don't even need to tell you what it costs, or I don't even need to tell you that I'm willing to give it to you for, you know, a 10-year loan with 0 interest, and I'm willing to give it to you without a down payment. You can just drive it off the lot right now. I'm not going to check your credit. I'm not going to do anything. You know, we don't have to get to that point if you already don't want the thing to begin with. All the other stuff becomes completely just a moot point. So again, going back to the marketing period, the first thing is desire. You have to put together offers, services, packages, products, whatever it is that you're offering to the marketplace has to be marketable in as much as I'm saying it has to be something that the market desires. Yeah, Jerry.
Just a couple comments have come in. I'm not sure how well they'll fit in with what you're saying, but
okay.
One was from Susan saying, I'll just read what it says. It says, no, because they need it. I don't want to sell them anything they don't need. And another follow-up from her was, most people will pick the middle one. And Michael saying, isn't it best to never offer more than 3 choices for a quick decision? That's, you know, there's the 3 choices. You know, you've heard 3, you've heard 4, never 2. That's all over the place. As far as selling things they don't need, a lot of people don't think they need stuff that they really do need. That doesn't mean you should shove everything down their throat and tack on, you know, the gold version and on top of that. But you know, it's if you went by what a business thinks they need, they would have already had a website.
Yeah.
They would already be doing. They would already have mobile. They would already be doing SMS. They would already, you know, have all that. So I wouldn't give up on the need thing, but I agree that you know, you can go too far. But there's a lot of things these businesses need, and packaging them like the gist that I'm getting from Kevin is you got to package them into the market, and you got to package, but also how you package them is going to be how they, you know, what they desire. I mean, I would never buy the Baby Croc level at HostGator just because I feel insulted by the name. I mean, I know it's petty, but I mean, there's things like that. The names kind of turn me off sometimes. So it's going to drive my decision. So, I mean, you know, it's also how you package them.
Yep, and the naming over there is done on purpose. The business plan used to be named differently in the past, and they found out that they strongly increased their conversions selling that quote-unquote premium package of their shared hosting service when they changed the name to business. As soon as they changed the name to business, they started making a whole lot more sales of that package. So what I'm saying is you have to think about that when you're naming packages or naming any of your services across the board. You want to make them sound appealing, and or in the case of Baby Croc or other things, they're actually making them sound somewhat unappealing to steer people in a direction. Now, I'm going to speak to what Jerry just said as far as what was spoken of in regards to one of our current attendees right now tonight. If you know anything about me and the way I operate my business, you know that I am not the normal individual. I do not. I will definitely put my customers above a dollar bill, and I've done that ever since I've had a business. I used to have a cabinet business, and we did that in the cabinet business. My opinion is, if you want to build a very successful, long-term, solid business, you put your customers above everything else, and everything else falls into line. That said, you have to be careful with that too, because you will get customers that say, well, you know, gee whiz, I really like that premium package, but I can only afford the, you know, the price of the low package. You know, can't you just give me the high package for the low price? Now, you might think by what I just said, you know, take care of your customers first, everything works out. I don't mean that if you come to me and you say, hey, I want the premium package for the low price, that I'm going to give it to you. That's not going to happen. What I'm saying to you is whatever products and services you buy from me, whether that's a digital product that I sell online or whether that's an actual website creation or some other package that I offer to my clients, if I tell you you're going to get A, B, and C, you're going to get A, B, and C, and I'm going to deliver you A, B, and C as best as I can, and you're probably going to get D and E, a couple of extra bonuses and premiums that I didn't even tell you that you were going to get, because that's the way I like to operate my business. However, what Jerry said is absolutely true. I do not consider at all I'm not all concerned about what people need. I am concerned about what they need, but I know more about what my clients need than my clients know. That's the point that Jerry was trying to make. These people need help. There are so many business owners out there. I ran into a new one. I'm going to get a new client here pretty soon. Bob, who owns a house painting company. Bob has owned a house painting company since 1967, the same year I was born. So Bob is, just in my short time with him, I can tell you he's a great person. He's got a big heart. He likes to work hard. He's got a gang of people that work for him that he would like to make sure that he gets jobs in the house to keep them and their families fed. But Bob is lost when it comes to anything new. I mean, he doesn't have a website. He has no online presence whatsoever. And our whole conversation started at the gas pump the other day, just kind of shooting the breeze because it was hot out. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a hot one today. Yeah, at least that's good for business. And as soon as he said that, I said, "Oh, what business are you in?" And that's what opened the entire conversation, and that opened up him going from the person on the other side of the gas pump to a prospect to someone who says, "I want to hire you." So the long and short of my very recent startup with Bob is basically this. Bob is in the position currently where his Yellow Page advertising rep is telling him that it's time to renew, and Bob's already been contemplating not renewing because he's not seeing any return on his investment, which is like $300 plus a month. But he's lost. He doesn't know what he needs. He doesn't know how he needs it. He just knows that right now, pretty much the only thing that he does is the Yellow Page ad, and he's thinking to himself, well, if I pulled the only thing that I'm doing, that doesn't sound like a good idea, but I don't know what to do. So you will find that there are many, many, many people, business owners, that are in that same position, that they do not have any clue as to what they need. It's your responsibility then, as a provider of services that can benefit them, to basically approach them and to be honest and to care about them and to show them what it is that you can do for them, show them the hows and whys that they might want to consider that, and then allow them to make their own decision. I'm not saying to go Jedi mind trick everybody that you run into. That's not what I'm saying at all. You have to use persuasion tactics honorably, but if you're the type of person that thinks persuasion is wrong, then I'm sorry to tell you, but you're going to need to do something else, because all negotiation, all offering for services, there is persuasion involved. You have to persuade someone to be able to, you have to talk to them in terms that they get the ability to see the value and the benefit that you and your business offers to them. And if they don't see it, if you can't persuade them to see the value that you offer, you won't make any sales. And if you're not going to make any sales, you might as well do something else. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say on that. Anyway, I think we've covered desire quite well. The next part of the marketing triangle is willingness. So here we're looking at the Beverly Hills mansion. So let's say this place is, I don't know, $20 million. So I'm just going to forego you actually having to type in the questions box. But here's the next part. Even if every single one of you on this webinar desired this particular Beverly Hills mansion, how many of you would be willing to pay $20 million for a home? So obviously, let's say 100% of the people that came in that looked at this particular mansion were desirous of it. They desired it. You're going to have a smaller percentage of those people now that are actually willing to part with the particular money that you're asking for any particular goods or service. And the last part of the marketing triangle is the ability. So what you will find out is that there are sometimes that there are people that have the ability to spend money, and this happens very frequently in this business-to-business marketplace. You'll find business owners, especially right now where economies are uncertain, a lot of these businesses are sitting on cash. They're actually, instead of investing it in marketing, instead of investing in advertising, instead of hiring new staff, they're in a fear mode, and as a result of that, whatever money that's coming in that they have excess, instead of putting it back into their business and investing in their business, they're sitting on it. So it's not that many of them don't have the ability to buy a new website package from you or to buy reputation management from you, etc. They're uncertain about what the future holds at the moment, so they're being very miserly with the money that they have. So you might find someone that has maybe the desire to expand their business. Maybe they'd even be willing, or maybe they have the ability, but they're not willing. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. They've got two of the three components. You need all three components before you're going to make a sale. Until you get all three components, no sale is going to transpire. And I'll give you just a quick story exactly on this, and then we'll open it up for other questions. So when I got taught the marketing pyramid by a very top-level marketer, they had run into a gentleman who was, I forget the right terminology, but basically just a high-end level concierge, if you will, for a top Las Vegas hotel. Basically, the top-level concierge, their job is to woo the ultra-wealthy, the ultra-rich, into wanting to come and stay at their hotel because with the expectation that they're going to spend a lot of money at the hotel. So there's one guy, and I forget his name, but he's, I guess, world-renowned, or known globally at least in the Las Vegas marketplace as the guy that was the best at wooing or getting the super rich to come stay at their particular establishment. And for the longest time, he wanted Bill Gates. I mean, Bill Gates was at the time the wealthiest individual on the face of the earth, and he wanted to get Bill Gates to come stay at their establishment because his job was to bring in the ultra wealthy such that they would spend lots of money, make the hotel lots of money, make the boss very happy, and of course he would benefit as well. Well, after many years of approaching Bill Gates and offering all sorts of extra benefits and gifts, etc., he finally succeeded. Bill Gates stayed at the hotel only to spend less than the average normal Joe. They had comped his room, so he wasn't paying for the room. They expected he was going to go gamble a bunch and, invite huge parties and spend lots of money at other places, and he didn't do any of it. He basically soaked up their penthouse suite and didn't do anything else. They ended up actually kicking Bill Gates out of their establishment because he wouldn't spend any money. It was costing him money rather than making him money. And my point is this: Bill Gates obviously has the ability. I mean, he had the ability to buy the hotel if he wanted to. He had the ability, and I guess he had enough desire to come stay at the hotel, but he just wasn't willing. So you have to kind of think about those three components of the marketing pyramid, just kind of as you go putting together your products and services, as you make your offers, etc. My only other point that I'll say in regards to Esther's question is this. Try to get off of this site. We'll just go back to, I don't know, Google. Is part of her question says right here, assess their needs. This, I think, is huge. This is key. I so wholeheartedly agree with these three words that I can't highlight them enough. The entire sales process that I use in my own business is called consultative. I use what's called a consultative selling process, and you can look it up online to understand a little bit more about what consultative selling is. But basically, all consultative selling is this: it's asking questions. That's really all it is. Asking a client what they're currently doing now, asking their client where they see their business going, asking their client where they see current shortfalls in their own marketing plan or their current website. So what do you think about your current website? How would you like to see it change? what would you like to see improved? All of those questions are absolute gold in regards to you as the person offering services to someone, because they do a couple of things. Number one, they make it very clear to the individual that you're listening and that you care about them specifically, rather than coming in and saying, hello, my name is such and such, and I'm a web developer, and I have package A, B, and C. Which one would you like to pick? That's the completely opposite approach of consultative selling. Consultative selling is completely different, where you walk in and say, I am, a web developer and a small business marketing consultant, and I was wanting to, offer you a free 30-minute consultation if you'd have any desire to sit down and, maybe have a cup of coffee or just chat with me to see if I might be able to help you out. That approach is totally different. It's a very low-key, non-salesy approach. You're definitely going to find that you get less resistance and you're going to get your foot in the door more often. And once the conversation starts, then basically the consultative selling process starts, where basically you can assess their needs. And you assess their needs by asking them questions, like I said, about where they are now and where they want to be, what struggles they're having, what pains they're having, what things that you might be able to solve for them, etc. And then, I like this part too, you can put together a marketing plan for them. So if you just did those things, I think Esther, she ought to be teaching this. Sounds like she's doing everything right, in my opinion. You assess needs and then basically put together a marketing plan or a website plan if it's a website. After talking to you about your needs, I think probably the best of my 3 or 4 packages really is package B. And the reason I say that is because of this, this, and this. Of course, you're welcome to choose any of the packages if you disagree with my assessment, but that's where I would recommend that we start. That selling process, that consultative selling process is, in my opinion, it's very comfortable. It takes away a lot of the selling pressure, because you're doing a whole lot less selling and just a whole lot more talking and listening, and then basically just telling the particular prospect how your goods or services or your particular company might be a benefit to them. So I think that's it from what I got. Jerry, you got other questions, follow-ups, etc.?
Not just yet. Got a couple things going back and forth. Just asking, so kind of at a hold.
Okay. Well, we've been at it for 1 hour and 38 minutes, so if that's it, that's cool too. But if you have more stuff, basically we got about 21 minutes left to answer. If we can be helpful to you, we will do our best. If I have bored you silly, I apologize. You can jump off and go enjoy the rest of your Friday evening. But I'm hoping that this was helpful.
Let's see. Hang on a second here. We got Ganti wants to have his page in WordPress, have his pages and posts all show up in the same URL structure through permalink, and because it handles it differently between the two. And I don't know of a plugin that masks it that way. The only idea that I could think of was actually going in and editing the page URLs themselves as you post them.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that I understand the question, but as far as just an understanding of WordPress, pages and posts are treated differently because posts are they're kept basically in separate areas. You're not going to find that a page, if you create a page, that content's going to populate to the main front of, we'll just call it the blog. That area is relegated or set apart just for post content. So there is definitely a different hierarchy set up for pages and posts. It's not something that that I don't think you're going to find a plugin does it either, because basically it's counteracting the core principle of the way WordPress works. As far as URL structure, though, is concerned, the URL structure should remain the same. And if your permalink structure was set up to post name, you're going to find out that your WordPress, your domain name.com / page -title -here is going to look the same as the full URL to the post page for the full post is still going to be yourdomain.com / post -title -here. It's going to look the same in that regard, but there is a different hierarchy between pages and posts.
Okay, he's asking, how do you show the category and page name for pages? And if we're talking about in the URL, you're going to have to manually edit it and put it in there. It's by default. I don't know of a plugin or code change that would do that automatically.
I'm confused. Well, I mean, when you're setting up your permalink structure, you do have the ability to inject the category of. I'm sorry, Jerry, you said the category of what?
You can set the category of posts.
Right.
So he wants his pages to show up as if they have the same permalink structure as his posts.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking you just have to edit it, because you can put a / in there. You can make fake subdirectories in that little edit box.
Yeah. I would test it. If you can on a development URL, you might find that you mess around with things. Again, what you're trying to do is contrary to the actual WordPress core. It's contrary to the way WordPress was created.
And when it comes down to it, people are not looking at the URLs. They're looking at the content navigation inside the browser itself.
Right. He may be wanting to do it in terms of SEO, but my experience tells me that that's just not necessary.
Okay.
I wouldn't mess around with anything that was trying to undo the WordPress core. There's lots of ways to extend WordPress installations, but I wouldn't be messing around with the way that WordPress handles itself by default.
Okay. Another question was WordPress plugins. Do search engines know what plugins you are using? And my answer is kind of.
Yeah.
There's certain plugins depending on what they output, and they do output a signature or a footprint that can be brought up in your code and stuff. When we showed the security site when we were scanning during one of the WordPress webinars, you could see that it could find a lot of things about your site just by visiting it.
Right. I don't have any ability to test a perfect thing live, so I don't know what's kind of mundane. How about see if we can find a sewing blog. Hopefully we're not going to find anything crazy objectionable on a sewing site. We'll see. All right, so we just found a sewing site, and since I put powered by WordPress in all quotes, the likelihood is that this is a WordPress site, and you can see down here it says powered by WordPress and based on the Yamadou magazine theme. So this is a WordPress run website, and again, remember that all search engines are doing is they are looking at the source code that makes up each individual page. They are reading this version of the page. They are not reading the version of the page that is seen by visitors. So I don't know what we're going to find here real quick, but if we take a look down here, you can see that they are running Google Analytics. So obviously Google knows that they're running analytics. And of course they know all sorts of things about things. Because they're running Google Analytics, we know because they are outputting the meta name generator that they are using WordPress 3.2.1. You can see the, let's see here, they can tell all sorts of stuff, the search engines can. That is not what I was looking for, but they can tell quite frequently if you're using a standardized theme. There was a time, I don't know if that's changed or not, there was a time that actually Matt Cutts, who's a Google engineer, said on record that if you're running WordPress and you're using the 2010 default theme, that that Google already discounts your site just because you're running basically what they consider a generic theme that's used by millions of others. So, and of course, how they know that is they can look at the source code and see the path to the theme itself. And if it says 2010, then they know basically. You can see that this one is actually looks like it's running a custom sewing school. Appears to be the theme name. Of course, we know it's the Yamadou theme, but it's looks like they've custom named their theme directory, making theirs different than others. Let's see if we scroll down some more. I was going to see if we were looking at output from like the all-in-one SEO plugin, etc. A lot of people are using all-in-one SEO or Yoast, etc. And I know specifically with all-in-one, probably Yoast too, it outputs information right into the source that lets you know that that particular plugin is running. So again, basically what I'm saying is this. It is very easy for the search engines to know a lot about your WordPress installation if that content is being output to the theme. Here's something. I don't even know what link within is, but here's a script called the link within script. You can see it's here. And then down here, the script source equals linkwithin.com/widget.js. So whatever the link within.com widget is, the search engines know that they're running it. And that can be said, pretty much across many, many other different plugins and widgets. If it can be seen in the source code, the search engines know about it. Anything else?
Let's see. Everyone talks about getting clients, but what do you do when you get one?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. Well, hopefully you perform whatever the services are that you've sold to them. I mean, I don't know how to better answer that. If you've gotten a client, my belief is you've agreed upon a set of products or services and you've taken in some amount of money. For me, in our business, we take an absolute minimum of 50%. So depending upon the client situation, we may require 100% upfront to do work. We may only require 50% upfront and then 50% on completion. But we don't run anything net. So you will find that there are some that are going to ask you for net 10, net 15, net 30, and that basically just means that some business owners might say, hey, well, look, it's basically a float is what they're looking for. We'll pay you 50% up front and then we'll pay you the rest net 30, which basically what that would mean is, let's say the project was $1,000, they'll give you $500 up front and then they'll give you the additional $500 30 days after you've actually delivered it. Now, there are some business types that operate on that type of a model, and you'll find some web designers and web developers do as well. But please understand this. Your business is your business, and how you operate your business is your business, not anybody else's. So while I'm not saying that you can't be flexible, figure out what makes sense for you and then stick to your guns. For us, at the very minimum, a lot of times we'll charge 100% up front, but at the very minimum, we charge 50% up front and then 50% upon basically delivery. So the day that we're handing over the site and all the login details, etc., basically telling the client that their site's finished and then giving them information on how that they can access their site and then hand the keys basically to let them go forth. On that day, we get the remaining balance. We don't leave anything for 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 days later. As far as what do you do, I guess the what do you do could be kind of broken up into two different ways. What do you do? Number one is you do the work. What do you do? Two is you find an outsourcer to do the work. But either way, obviously you've got to do the work and then deliver it to the client. Anything else?
Someone was asking about WordPress multi, and we really haven't multi-user, and we haven't really gotten into that. Personally, I'm not a fan of it because once one site has a problem, it usually has a domino effect across the board. At least that's been my problem with multi-user. Also, not all hosts will allow you to use multi-user mode, and it usually requires more horsepower than individual sites.
Yeah, my experience with WordPress MU is very, very minimal at this point, so I couldn't give you a really intelligent answer on MU at all.
Okay, WordPress multi-user. Somebody's asking, what is MPMU? I mean WPMU, and it's not WordPerfect. I haven't said WordPerfect in a few months. So it's WordPress multi-user. It has been folded into the main WordPress, and what it is it allows the idea of running multiple sites off a single instance of WordPress multi-user being activated. And it uses a single database and a single site. However, it would either run as like subdirectories, subdomains, or separate domains depending on how you configure it. It's a lot harder to manage in some ways. In some ways maybe it's a little easier, but the main things is that you have to make sure that all your plugins are compatible and the sites are set up. You have a lot more administrative issues to deal with. EduBlogs is one of the big users of WordPress multi-user, and they sell blogs to teachers and to schools to use it. But their admin, they have a whole team of admins running their site. And I don't know about most of you people that are on this call, but most of you probably don't have teams. So it's just a multi-user. It's supposed to make it so it's easier to handle multiple people on multiple blogs that were independent. But I found it's typically easier to install multiple instances and separate them.
Yeah, and especially if you're dealing with like client work like that, you know, there's a risk factor because, like Jerry said, it's running off of a singular database. I just don't like it. There might be some very good reasons to use it, but for me in my business, I don't touch it. Everything is, of course, we're not, nothing that we've talked about is discussing the services provided over at WordPress.com. You know, the stuff that's self-hosted by WordPress. We're all talking about the actual WordPress core that you get over at WordPress.org. But past that, I mean, I might find a use for MU in the future, but at the moment, I don't.
Can you turn or build a WordPress site so if a client stops paying or does a chargeback, you can turn off the website? It depends on if you're hosting it or if they're hosting it. If they're hosting it, you have to go in there and do something. And you better have that in your contract before you start messing on their site. On your site, like in Reseller, there's a mode to just suspend an account. You go into Web Host Manager, choose the account, and say suspend, and their whole site is suspended. Not exactly the way HostGator did to us, but they'll see a nice screen that says that it's suspended. So you know that's an advantage of hosting for your clients if you're going to be charging like monthly, or if you're going to have them deliver in payments, and you're worried about non-payment and them backing out. My suggestion: find a different client if you're really that worried about it. I'm actually getting very close to firing my client that I'm having problems with, and it's I think that's the better way to go for me. So Let's see.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes, so if you
Okay, how do you have a client who's paid you? How do you deliver it to them? Again, it depends on what you're going to do with the client. If you're hosting it, you turn it on. If they're hosting it, if you made an agreement to install it, provide it with a zip file, provide, that's something that really depends on what you're delivering and what you've agreed to. Let's see, and the last question here we have is, in a post, does linking with keyworded anchor text to a previous post or page give you a little extra SEO juice?
Yes. Yes. As far as links are concerned, inbound, or basically inner page links that go between your site from one page to another, anchor text instead of a keyword, or anchor text instead of a link, or the keyword phrase basically as anchor text instead of a link, is still a determining factor in regards to how the search engines index a particular page of your site. And it's basically what you're doing when linking from one to another. You're linking to a particular page with a particular keyword phrase, or a keyword phrase embedded in the anchor text of the link. And so the answer is yes. Is it going to immediately catapult you above many others overnight? Probably not. But it is a good practice, provided, of course, that really what you're doing is using intelligent keyword phrases that you're optimizing for, and you're not doing it wholeheartedly just for the search engines. One of the things, of course, a long time ago used to be much different than it is now. The search engines are continually updating, continually making algorithm changes, continually getting more smart, etc. And as a result of that, of course, SEO is a moving target. It's not something that you can just say one thing today and it's going to be that same way forever. That's just not the case. But I will tell you, in general terms, you will find better SEO or better SERP, search engine rank placement, when you are writing good quality, unique content that actually serves the reader, that will fly in the face of things that you're probably taught. Oh, you have to worry about your keyword density, and oh, you got to worry about the specific placement of your keywords. The keyword has to come in the first 25 words, and it's got to show up again in the last 25 words, and it's got to be sprinkled throughout, and yada, 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 yada. I disagree with that. I disagree with that because it may have been true at one point, but I don't believe it's true anymore. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do some intelligent on-page optimization. I do believe that you should, but the end goal should really be the content should serve the visitor, should serve the reader. And if you're really writing only for the search engines, then you're probably shooting yourself in the foot.
My feelings is I don't go for search engine optimization. I go for site engagement optimization, right for the reader. Yeah, so, and that's why you also want to make sure when you are hyperlinking, if it's for SEO, don't do things like, to download this file, click here, and then click here. Otherwise, you might rank for click here fairly well. As Adobe is the #1 thing for click here, yep, because everybody's saying to download the reader, click here. So yeah, so try to make your hyperlinks be meaningful and keyword, but don't overdo it, and remember it's the reader that you're trying to serve. I think we're done.
Sweet.
Got a lot of nice comments from everybody. Appreciate it. It's been a great time. Even though this for right now is the last of the basic web dev course.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun with everybody.
Has been a lot of fun. And we have had a lot of really, really nice comments sent in, and we very much appreciate that, because realistically, if we haven't added value to you, we've not done our job. And so I hope that you have found this whole entire process to be valuable, this course to be valuable. To that end, I will say just 2 quick things. Number one, I will get this webinar done, encoded and edited as quickly as possible and over to Jerry such that he can add it to the member area. I have started work on the last one, but I have not yet finished it, so hopefully by sometime tomorrow, probably tomorrow evening, both this webinar and the one previous will be inside the members area. And as far as webinars content is concerned, that completes everything.